Unions. Union jobs have historically been and continue to be a path to the middle class for all workers and their families, and in particular women, immigrants, and communities of color, who often otherwise face low wages in their professions. Those in the labor movement know that civil rights and economic rights are inextricably linked. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. perceived, one cannot be achieved without the other. That's why, in 1968, Dr. King came to the aid of striking Memphis sanitation workers who were protesting inhumane conditions that led to the death of 2 workers on the job. Today, the labor movement and its allies carry on that legacy to stand up to bigotry, discrimination, and inequality in the workplace and in our communities. Unions provide the most effective vehicle for women, immigrants, and people of color to gain their fair share of the wealth they create and to secure the freedoms and rights they deserve. SEIU 503 carries on that legacy here in Oregon. Our union began in 1943 as a small association of state highway maintenance workers called the Oregon State Employees Association. Back then, Oregon public employees did not have the right to collectively bargain or to join a union. Instead, public workers joined together to form associations for the purpose of lobbying and advocating for themselves. The Oregon State Employees Association, or OSEA, held its first General Council on June 20, 1943, with 19 delegates. Over the years, workers from many state agencies joined OSEA, with each agency creating their own chapter to advocate for the workers in their agency. Then, in 1973, the Oregon State Legislature passed the Public Employee Collective Bargaining Act, PECBA, granting public employees the right to form a union and bargain collectively. Shortly thereafter, individual chapters of OSEA won union recognition and bargaining rights. Workers in cities, counties, and other municipalities also organized to win collective bargaining rights. The OSEA then became known as Oregon Public Employees Union, OPEU. In 1980, OSEA, recognizing the benefit of affiliation with one of the largest international unions in the United States, affiliated with Service Employees International Union, SEIU, and became SEIU Local 503. With the IU's aid, in 1983, our union began to pave the path for organizing private sector workers. 5 years later, we won union recognition and a first contract at CODA, a drug and alcohol treatment provider in the Portland metro area. That was followed by a flurry of hard-won private sector organizing victories in the 90s. Workers at Education Northwest struck during a cold and rainy fall to win their first contract in 2000. And Perry Center for Children workers held the line for 59 days from 2004 to 2005 in our union's longest strike. Although we haven't had to strike often in the history of our union, when we have, we've been incredibly effective. On September 16, 1987, state workers began a 9-day rolling strike when talks with the state broke down over pay and benefit issues and gender pay equity.
Our top news story this morning, more than 16,000 Oregon State employees are on strike this morning.
The Oregon State Hospital was one of the first places state workers struck when the midnight deadline passed. Pickets went up, leaving management to handle the patients.
The rolling strike tactic involved targeting selected state agencies with temporary strikes, then going back to work and striking other agencies. The aims were to keep the state off guard and at the same time avoid an economic strain on workers.
Well, they do have quite a sophisticated strike strategy.
The rolling strike is a euphemism for chaos.
Now, the strategy is causing so much confusion, Executive Department Director Fred Miller says he's considering an attempt to have it declared illegal.
The tactic worked, and after 9 days of the state's first and only rolling strike, our union's members celebrated an amazing victory, which included pay raises of 10 to 30% for underpaid, traditionally female-dominated occupations. Workers won an additional $9.1 million from the governor's budget, an average of $1 million for every day we were on strike. The strategic strike was so effective that the state immediately outlawed the tactic, but the showdown with the state helped public employees win big, and it propelled our union into a position of greater strength. We went on strike once again in the spring of 1995, when 16,500 state workers took a stand against the state's offer of a 6% salary reduction and limitations on collective bargaining.
Do you accept a 6% salary reduction in July?
Union members and allies picketed across the state and effectively shut down state services, culminating in thousands upon thousands of workers marching on the state capitol.
From Sky 8, you can see the march everyone's talking about in Salem.
It is, as you say, a display of strength and unity not often seen during any strike.
My message is, you're expecting more out of me, I'm giving more, and you're cutting my pay 6%. And I don't like it.
Our workers are out here today. We hope the legislature will pay attention.
Union brothers and sisters, stand united. Our fight is not over. It has just begun, and we will prevail.
The Great March of 1995 is still considered the largest rally of its kind in the history of Oregon. The strike lasted for 1 week until a satisfactory settlement was reached. Then, 20 years ago, our union leaders made a bold decision to organize the non-traditional workforce. Recognizing that the workforce of the future was going to include more contingent work and more privatized, publicly funded work, leaders passed a resolution calling on our union to reach out to non-traditional workers, including public sector temporary workers and home care workers. These were two groups of workers in particular that labor laws had not included.
We didn't have any kind of insurance. We didn't have we didn't have workers' comp. We didn't have the taxes taken out. We didn't have any kind of training at the time. There was no orientations or anything at the time. And so consequently, we had pretty much nothing.
Thanks to the organizing efforts of visionary leaders like you, home care workers organized into our union and began paying dues even before we won a first contract, or even before they had collective bargaining rights. Workers joined a union to build the power to change the laws and win the basic right of collective bargaining. Building a strong coalition of workers, consumers, and allies, we mounted a ballot measure campaign to create the Oregon Home Care Commission to improve the quality of services and to provide workers the right to collective bargaining. In November of 2000, Measure 99 passed with 63% of the voters saying yes. It won majority support in each and every county in the state. This paved the way toward a traditional organizing drive that culminated in home care workers winning union recognition and a collective bargaining agreement. Since that time, we have gone on to organize care providers in adult foster homes, child care, personal support, nursing homes, and assisted living facilities. And we're not done. Our union will continue to be strong if workers choose to make it strong. We've seen this happen when the U.S. Supreme Court struck down fair share fees for home care workers in 2014 through their decision in Harris versus Quinn, and when the Freedom Foundation moved to Oregon shortly thereafter to try and undermine our membership. Home care workers took their union into their own hands, increased their membership, and won one of the strongest contracts in the nation in 2015. Since its beginning as an association of state highway maintenance workers, our union has been a voice for workers other unions would not organize. Today, SEIU Local 503, OPEU, carries on this mission, representing over 60,000 workers in Oregon. Our ability to fight for working people today is built on the lessons of the past, and those lessons will guide us as we continue to make history. I'm Steve Demarest, statewide president of SEIU 503. Together, we rise.